It's actually really funny. If you just listen to the official announcements these days, everything sounds perfectly fine.
Oh, yeah, totally normal.
Right. You turn on the news, and leaders are constantly shaking hands, and they're standing at podiums declaring that global trade is flowing smoothly.
The internet is open, supply chains are resilient.
Exactly. They hold these massive summits just to reassure us that major shipping lanes are technically open, and dialogue between huge economic powers is ongoing.
Right, but then
But then you step away from the podiums. You look at your own life, or, you look at how businesses are actually operating right now, and there is this strange, unavoidable feeling.
that everything just feels harder.
Yes.
Yeah.
It feels slower. It feels, well, a lot more fragile. The official narrative says the doors to the world are wide open, but actually walking through those doors feels increasingly impossible.
And that is a massive disconnect. I mean, the gap between the surface and the structure right now is huge. And honestly, it is the absolute defining shift of our time.
Because it feels like a contradiction.
Right. Exactly. We really like things to be binary. We want to believe either the world is, seamlessly globalized and completely open, or it's totally fracturing and entirely closed off.
Right, like a new Cold War or something.
Yeah, but what the data actually shows and what the structural observation notes we're looking at today explore in depth, specifically things like the GOA-35 memos and LMOS framework, is that neither of those extremes is accurate. The world isn't simply closing.
Which is counterintuitive to hear because it certainly feels like doors are slamming shut everywhere for you and me.
Oh, for sure.
So if we aren't collapsing into this entirely closed, fractured world, what exactly is happening to all these systems we rely on? Because today we are taking a deep dive into this stack of analytical memos to figure that out.
Right.
Our mission today is to uncover why the world feels like it's breaking, even though officially the doors are wide open.
So the underlying structural phase shift here and the key insight from these memos is that the world is becoming what analysts call probabilistic.
Probabilistic.
Yeah. So the paths, the physical trade routes, the digital networks, they are still sitting right there. But the probability of a successful connection across them is fundamentally changing.
Wait, changing how?
Well, the absolute certainty we used to have about global movement is just evaporating.
Okay, wait, probabilistic? I have to admit, I am definitely not a statistician.
Fair enough.
Are you saying we are literally like rolling the dice on whether a cargo ship makes it across the ocean or whether a data packet arrives? Because that sounds like sheer chaos, not an organized system.
It's not chaos, but it is a massive recalculation of risk. Think back to, say, a decade ago.
Okay.
If a company ordered a container of components from Shenzhen to Los Angeles, there was a near 100% certainty it would arrive in a specific number of days.
Right, just-in-time delivery. You could set your watch to it.
Exactly. It was a deterministic system.
Yeah.
But today, that same route is probabilistic. You have to factor in the probability of a sudden export curb or the probability of a new financial sanction hitting the clearing bank.
Or the physical blockade somewhere.
Right, exactly. The physical ocean hasn't changed. The water is still there, but the likelihood of seamlessly moving across it fluctuates daily.
Okay, let's unpack this gap between the official narrative and that probabilistic reality. Because the difference between what politicians say on camera and what those cargo ships are actually experiencing in the water is pretty stark.
It really is. The analysts we're pulling from today point out this distinct split in how the world operates right now.
And they use specific terms for this, right?
Yeah. They call the surface level the narrative layer, or N layer. So on the N layer, the vocabulary of the late 20th century is perfectly maintained. Leaders still use words like free trade, coordination, and openness.
So they're just lying?
Well, no, it's not necessarily a complete lie. Countries do still desperately need to connect with one another, but it is a symbolic openness. It's the vocabulary of a connected world being forcefully applied to a fractured one.
I was reading through the notes and it made me think of this analogy.
Oh, let's hear it.
It's like a prestigious museum that proudly advertises everywhere that it's open to the general public.
Okay, yeah.
You see the billboards on the highway, the front doors are physically unlocked, the lights are clearly on inside.
Right. Technically open.
Technically open. But when you actually walk up to the entrance, you suddenly find out you need like 3 forms of ID, a comprehensive background check, and an exclusive membership card just to step inside the lobby.
That is exactly it.
The sign says open, but the operational reality says something completely different.
Right. And the analysts call that operational reality the I layer, the layer of interests and deals. The sign on the door is the narrative. The security guards checking your ID, well, they represent the actual operational reality.
So the practical trust required to use those supposedly open systems is disappearing.
Precisely. The actual ability to move things or people or data is becoming heavily conditional.
Okay, let's ground this for everyone listening. How does this actually look in practice? Because it's not just abstract geopolitical theory. We're feeling this.
Oh, absolutely. Look at the supply chains for artificial intelligence, specifically the physical hardware, like advanced semiconductors.
Right, the actual chips.
Yeah. So formally, a tech company in one country can buy from a manufacturer in another. The market is legally open, but operationally, the supply chain is heavily filtered.
Filtered how?
Well, governments aren't just blocking physical ports anymore. They are using end-user agreements, trusted vendor lists, and really strict intellectual property restrictions to build this massive digital fence.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so if a factory wants to buy the lithography machines required to make these advanced AI chips, they have to prove exactly who will eventually use the final product.
So the roads themselves haven't been torn up. But suddenly, there are invisible toll booths everywhere.
Invisible toll booths is a great way to put it. And energy markets show the exact same pattern. We see long-term liquefied natural gas, or LNG, contracts being rigidly locked down right now.
And that's new. I thought gas was always pretty strictly contracted.
Well, a decade ago, a lot of energy was just bought on the spot market. Whoever needed it, bought it, and the ship sailed there. It was highly fluid.
Supply and demand.
Exactly. Now, we see these massive 20-year contracts being signed that specify exactly which allied nations the gas can be delivered to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and there are strict clauses preventing it from being resold to third parties. The market is technically functioning, right? The gas is moving, but it is heavily conditional.
Okay, so if the doors are still there, but you need special permission to walk through them, we really have to figure out how these new toll booths work.
We do.
Because for the last 50 years, global logistics was just about drawing the shortest possible line from point A to point B. I'm really struggling to understand how the map hasn't changed, but the rules of the road have shifted so dramatically.
It's because the entire operating system of the global economy is being rewritten.
Like a literal software update.
Conceptually, yes. The 20th century global operating system valued unconditional connectivity. If a port existed, a ship could dock. If a network existed, data could flow.
Right.
The overarching goal back then was shortest path optimization, finding the cheapest, fastest way from origin to destination.
And now?
The new operating system values connectivity assurance.
Connectivity assurance.
Yeah. It's no longer about whether a physical or digital route just exists, but about who is allowed to use it and under what specific condition.
That is a massive distinction. I mean, it implies that just being connected isn't good enough anymore. You have to be able to explicitly trust the connection.
Exactly. We are moving from shortest path optimization to passability optimization. It's conditional connectivity.
Passability optimization, so just making sure you can actually get through the door.
Right. And that conditionality is determined by authentication, trusted networks, and geopolitical alliances, what people are increasingly calling friendshoring.
Right, friendshoring. Trading with countries you actually like.
Or at least ones you trust not to cut you off. The system now asks a whole new set of questions before allowing any transaction or movement to complete.
So what kind of questions? Give me the anatomy of one of these invisible toll booths.
Sure. Let's think about global shipping again. When a ship wants to move cargo through a critical waterway, the physical route is obvious, it's just water. But the financial and regulatory route is incredibly complex.
Okay.
The system asks, which country is this ship registered to? Who owns the holding company that leased the vessel?
It gets that deep.
Oh, yeah. Which payment network is being used to clear the transaction for the cargo? And crucially, who is insuring the journey?
Who is insuring it? So an underwriter sitting at a desk in London or New York is effectively acting as a geopolitical border guard.
In many ways, yes, absolutely. If maritime insurance pools decide that the geopolitical risk of a specific strait is too high, or if new sanctions mean they can't legally insure a ship carrying a certain nation's goods, the premiums skyrocket.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, and if it costs a literal fortune to insure a vessel, it doesn't matter if the physical waterway is technically open and free of blockades.
Because no one can afford to sail through it.
Exactly. The financial reality makes it impassable. The shipping lane is accessible on a map, but it is no longer reliably usable.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. If the world is constantly recalculating all these probabilities,
Right.
like checking origins, verifying payment networks, ensuring trusted vendors, recalculating insurance risk by the hour,
Yeah,
that must require a staggering amount of computation behind the
it
scenes.
does. It's immense.
It sounds to me like trying to run an ultra-fast modern software update on a 10-year-old laptop.
Well, that's a good way to put it.
Right. The new software wants to run all these complex security checks instantly, but the old hardware just chokes and overheats.
The tension in that analogy is exactly what the analysts described in the memos as the friction between high-speed systems and slower human realities.
The speed and sheer concept.
Yes. The mechanisms running the modern world, financial markets, algorithmic risk models, AI supply chains, automated military logistics, they all operate at lightning speed.
Like milliseconds.
Exactly. And right now, they are actively recalculating the connection success rate of the entire globe continuously.
And what are they optimizing for now, if not just pure speed?
They are completely abandoning pure, naked efficiency. For decades, efficiency meant holding zero inventory and relying on just-in-time delivery over the absolute shortest possible route.
Right, which kept costs super low.
Yeah. But now, these high-speed systems are demanding redundancy. They demand resilience and strategic buffers. They want verified, trusted routes.
Which makes sense if things are probabilistic.
Right. But that creates a new problem. It introduces what physicists call shear.
Shear. Okay, break that down for me in this context. I remember seeing that in the notes.
Yeah, so shear is the intense friction generated when different layers of a system operate at different speeds. You have these high-speed algorithmic systems demanding trusted, authenticated routes instantly. They want a mathematically guaranteed secure supply chain right this second.
But the real world doesn't work that fast.
Exactly. They are rubbing up against the slow physical reality of human institutions, physical borders, customs agents, actual cargo ships moving at 20 knots on the ocean, and really slow-moving legal frameworks.
So the software really is moving faster than the hardware.
Yes. And this creates what the analysts call membrane tension.
Membrane tension.
Yeah, imagine the boundaries between different geopolitical blocks or between different technological ecosystems as physical membranes.
Like a cell wall.
Right. When the high-speed demand for connectivity assurance hits the slow-moving reality of physical trade and human bureaucracy, that membrane stretches. It heats up.
Wow.
We see massive friction right at the points where these different systems and blocks rub against each other.
So instead of a sudden catastrophic snap, like a total global shutdown or complete collapse of international trade, we just get this intense, continuous friction.
Exactly.
The tension just builds up at the boundaries.
And this is really key. The analysts are very explicit about avoiding collapse narratives. The world isn't ending. We aren't going back to the Stone Age.
Okay, well, that's a relief.
Yeah, but the friction is rising. The operating system is trying to optimize for passability rather than speed, and that requires constant, high-friction authentication at every single membrane.
Okay, so what does this all mean for you, the listener? I think this is the most important part of our deep dive today.
Definitely.
Because we're throwing around these massive concepts, membrane tension, connectivity assurance, geopolitical redundancy. It can sound very abstract.
Yeah, it can sound like something only central bankers or, supply chain managers need to worry about.
Right. So if we aren't heading for a catastrophic collapse, how does this probabilistic world actually show up for a normal person on a random Tuesday?
Well, total closure is obvious. If a physical border shuts completely or a major internet data cable is cut, everyone sees it on the evening news. It's a huge event.
Everyone notices a blackout.
Right. What is actually happening, though, is much quieter and in some ways a lot more pervasive.
How so?
The danger isn't a sudden blackout. It's the slow, creeping increase in everyday friction. The structural shift will first appear to you as small daily annoyances. Things simply become a little slower, they become a little more expensive, a little more annoying, and a little more unstable.
Okay, but I want to push back on that a bit.
Okay, go for it.
Because it's really easy to just blame geopolitics for everything, right?
True.
How does a massive geopolitical trade dispute over microchips or, membrane tension in the Red Sea actually translate to my life?
It does, though.
Connect those dots for me. When I order a piece of tech and it takes 3 weeks instead of 2 days and the price has jumped 15%, how is that not just a temporary supply chain glitch?
Because it is a structural signal. You, the consumer, are personally paying for geopolitical redundancy.
Okay, walk me through that.
Let's trace the mechanism. If a multinational company can no longer rely on a single hyper-efficient megafactory in one country because that route is now probabilistic, meaning they can't guarantee they can get the goods out, what do they
They
do?
move the factory.
Well, they don't just move it. They have to build 3 smaller factories in 3 different friendly countries.
Friend shoring in action.
Exactly. And they have to hold twice as much inventory just in case a trusted route suddenly becomes restricted.
Which is the opposite of just-in-time delivery.
Right. And building redundant factories and warehousing extra inventory costs billions of dollars. Those costs don't just vanish into the ether.
Right, the company isn't going to just eat that cost.
Never. They are absorbed by the system, and eventually they trickle down to the retail price of the laptop you just bought.
So it's like a hidden tax of connectivity assurance.
That's a brilliant way to phrase it. Yes.
We are all literally paying for the system's paranoia.
Because we are moving from a seamlessly connected society to a selectively connected society. And in a selectively connected society, every single connection requires authentication.
Which takes time.
Time, energy, and money.
I really want to look at the digital side of this too. Because it's not just physical goods getting more expensive. We feel this friction online as well, don't we?
Oh, absolutely we do. Think about the sudden explosion of cybersecurity measures you deal with daily now.
Oh, don't even get me started.
Right. That annoying new mandatory two-factor authentication process at your bank, the constant identity verifications to use basic apps, the geographical blocking of certain websites.
Yeah, where you just can't read an article because of where you live.
Exactly. This isn't just companies deciding to be annoying for the fun of it. It is the domestic consequence of a globally fractured digital ecosystem.
How so? Like, why does my bank care about geopolitical share?
Because global cyber networks can no longer implicitly trust the data flowing through them. We've moved from assume trust to assume breach.
Assume breach. Wow.
Yeah. Domestic institutions, like your local bank, have to assume that any incoming requests from outside their immediate trusted network might be hostile state-sponsored activity.
Or some complex cyber attack born out of this whole geopolitical friction.
Right. So they implement what's called a zero-trust architecture, and they push the cost of that verification, the friction, the time it takes onto you, the end user.
So my bank makes me jump through 3 hoops to log in because the global internet is no longer a fundamentally trusted space.
Exactly.
It's the shift from can we connect to can we guarantee the connection is safe.
And the answer to that second question is often yes, but it's going to cost you time and money. The friction of simply maintaining the connections we used to take for granted is steadily rising everywhere you look.
Man, let's take a step back and just look at the whole picture we've painted today.
It's a lot to take in.
It really is, because it's a profound shift in how we understand the world around us. We started with this glaring contradiction.
Right, the official narrative versus reality.
Yeah, leaders telling us everything is open and flowing, while our daily reality feels increasingly bogged down and complicated. And what we've discovered through these memos is that we aren't living in a world that is shutting down or collapsing into isolated fortresses.
No, not at all.
We are living in a world where the paths are becoming probabilistic.
The physical map looks exactly the same. The deep water ports are still there. The fiber optic cables are still resting on the ocean floor right where they've always been. But the underlying rules running through them have fundamentally changed.
The operating system has shifted. It's shifted from demanding pure speed and the shortest possible paths to demanding trust, authentication, and resilience.
Passability.
Passability, right. The illusion of openness is maintained in the political narrative, but the practical reality is a landscape of invisible toll booths, where connection is highly conditional and restricted to trusted networks. And that friction, that shear between the fast-moving digital demand for total security and the slow-moving physical world is what we feel as everyday life getting slightly slower, more expensive, and honestly more annoying.
You really have to look past a surface impression to see the underlying structure. The surface says open, the structure says conditional.
It's a heavy realization, but honestly, it's also strangely comforting.
How so?
Because it means the friction we are all feeling isn't just in our heads. It's not a series of random glitches or just a string of bad luck. It is the literal sound of the global operating system actively rewiring itself right in front of us.
That's a great perspective. And, you know, if The world is fundamentally shifting from can we connect to can we guarantee the connection. That is a principle you can apply far beyond global geopolitics.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, look at your own life, your own work, your own personal networks. Which of your personal, professional, or digital connections are merely open on paper, and which ones are actually reliably usable when you truly need them? Think about it. What happens when you stop optimizing your own life for the fastest route and start optimizing it for the most reliable one?
That is a fascinating question and one we are all going to have to answer in this new reality. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It was a pleasure.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from the hidden geopolitical toll booths in the ocean to the invisible friction in your online shopping cart. But hopefully, the world makes just a little bit more sense to you now. We will be back with more insights next time. Until then, stay curious.